Hey, what is going on, guys? Refresh HD here, bringing you a double Spaz 12 MOAB on the map Hard Hat. Thought this was a really good gameplay, probably in my top 10 for sure, and hopefully you guys do end up enjoying this one. So I thought I would bring you guys some tips on Hard Hat and tips for using shotguns in general. So first off, I just want to say I did have some guys run Ballistic Vest. It wasn't like a completely Ballistic Vest reliant gameplay. I think I could have still gotten it just on map control alone, and that's really what I like about running into parties, that you can pretty much control the spawns, and I'll pretty much talk about how to control the spawns on Hard Hat. So for this map, and also, by the way, got a few kills with the MP9 secondary, but I really don't think it detracts from the gameplay at all, because I'll explain how important a good secondary is. So let's get right into this gameplay. So for this map, you definitely want to have A and B right off the bat. If you spawn at C, which is bound to happen even in a party, you always want to, right off the bat, don't cap C, rush it right to A, and then from there to B. Don't go straight, or don't cap C right off the start, or you'll keep spawning there if they cap A and B. And obviously the only way to break out is if you're able to kill the entire enemy team and then cap B and A. So right off the start, just go for A if you spawned at C. And the main reason being, I mean, it's not impossible to keep them spawning at A, but it is extremely difficult. I find it much easier to just keep them spawning at C. And how you do that is you can only have one guy pushing the enemy spawn at once. So if you're controlling, or if you have A and B, you always want to have just one person in 6v6. I think you can have two in ground war who's actually pushing into the spawn. If you have more than one person pushing the spawn, they'll just flip every time. So keep that in mind. You either have to be the rusher or the camper, depending on who you play with. So if you're normally a guy who likes to sit back, then you might want to have one good rusher on the team, or a couple good rushers on the team, because that'll allow you to. The enemies will flip spawns all the time, so it'll be easier for you to kill if you like to play a little bit more defensive. If you are a rusher, though, you might want to play with some defensive players, because that'll make it so that they're not rushing into the spawn just like you, and the spawns won't be flipping, so you can still rack up all the kills and stuff like that. So that's pretty much just what I've noticed. And for this gameplay, like I said, I had support runners, but I don't think it detracts from the gameplay at all. I still think double Spaz MOAB is pretty decent, even including damage. I don't find the Spaz to be as good as Modern Warfare 2, obviously. I think Modern Warfare 2 is probably one of my favorite shotguns in any Call of Duty game, really, so I don't think any Modern Warfare 3 shotgun could live up to the Spaz from Modern Warfare 2. That's just me, though. So yeah, back to the tips. So we did have one other guy pushing C spawn, which could have kind of screwed me over in this gameplay, but luckily the spawns weren't flipping for whatever reason. Sometimes the spawns just work in a really erratic way on Modern Warfare 3. Got a little choked up there, but so we did have one other guy pushing C spawn, but luckily they weren't flipping, so got really lucky with that. But usually you only want one guy in the spawn, and if you are going for these fast gameplays or double MOABs or anything like that, you obviously want that guy to be you. So controlling the spawn, once again, all my teammates are pretty much controlling B and A at this point. They're not pushing into C, so that means we'll keep spawning around me just because I'm one guy. One guy can't flip the spawns on any map, really, as far as I know. So if you just have one guy in the spawn, they'll keep spawning around you. You'll see here that they spawn in that tractor area against the wall, and then once I get to it, I'll point it out as well. They'll spawn in that area as well, which is pretty much at the back of this building. You see right there, that guy spawns in. You can see by the mini map. So they'll spawn there, and once again in that tractor area that I passed earlier. So if you are controlling CDOM, just keep those spawn points in mind. That's something that I really do like to emphasize in my gameplay commentaries, is that you always want to have some really good spawn control and map awareness. So the map awareness and knowing where they're going to be spawning at, and the rush routes that they like to take. Maybe not rush routes, because not many people rush on Modern Warfare 3, but just the routes they take to get from one place to another. So keep that in mind when you're playing this game, and it'll be a lot easier for you. So tips for using shotguns. See, I get the first MOAB, did a little transition there. Hopefully you guys like that transition. It was a little cheesy, but tips for using shotguns. You obviously want to have damage on almost all the shotguns. I don't even see the point in running range on even the Spaz. Some people say range is really good on the Spaz, but range, all I see range is it's a decent substitute for damage if you're only at like a rank 23 for your gun level. So it's obviously better than not having any kind of proficiency on your gun, but it's still not nearly as good as having damage. So always be running damage on your shotguns, no matter what shotgun it is. And then obviously if you are running specialist, I mean this doesn't apply to assault, but if you are running specialist, you'll get all the proficiencies excluding damage, so you'll get range. But if you don't already have damage on, you won't get that with specialist bonus. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but you won't get damage with specialist bonus. So you just want to make sure that you have damage on right off the bat, and then you can just unlock range as a proficiency once you get your specialist boner. There you go. That's a Green Goblin reference for you. But yeah, so always keep that in mind, and have a good secondary. That's my next point. Always have a really good secondary when you are going for these shotgun MOABs. So what you need as a secondary, I know a lot of people like the FMG9 akimbo or Scorpion akimbo or even the MP9 akimbo, but you want a single weapon as a secondary. And that single weapon has to be the MP9. And why I recommend the MP9 is that it has very little to no recoil in terms of actual secondaries. Scorpion has way too much recoil as a single, but for whatever reason, when you have it as a akimbo, it's not nearly as bad in terms of recoil, in my opinion. So have the MP9 single as a secondary. Use the silencer on it as well. I mean, there's plenty of points where you're going to be getting into some hot situations. You know, the whole enemy team just spawned on you. And, you know, you can either use your unsuppressed weapon as the shotgun primary, or you can use a silenced weapon as a secondary, so they won't be able to figure out where you're coming from. I find that really useful, is having a silenced weapon as a secondary, so that if you are getting into a hot situation, you don't want everyone to know where you are when you shoot, you can just use your silenced MP9, so it's really useful for that purpose, and also when you get into those long-range engagements. So yeah. Next thing is that you want to pick your gunfights, and this is something that you want to do with any weapon on Modern Warfare 3, is realize if you do get into a gunfight with someone, that you have the best odds of winning it. So right there's nothing I could do about that because he had Final Stand on, but if I had the opportunity, obviously I wouldn't want to go up against someone in Final Stand, but you know, if someone has like an ACR long range, you're obviously not going to want to try to rush at them with a shotgun. It's not going to do anything. Shotguns have very little actual range, so it's not like you're going to be pumping them off from across the map. But yeah, pick your gunfights. If you know they have a sniper and ACR, just move on, try to flank. There's plenty of flank routes on hard hat, so keep that in mind. Don't always rush at the enemies right off the bat, because if you do, typically most of them are going to be using submachine guns or assault rifles, which obviously beat out shotguns at almost every range except for close range. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of stuff that you want to keep in mind when you're actually going for these shotgun MOABs. And this doesn't always just apply to shotgun MOABs. It's just using shotguns in general, how to do decently well with a shotgun, because I know there's plenty of you who don't actually have the skill to get MOABs at this point. They're not they're not really easy. They're moderately easy if you have support runners or you're just a decent player. But you know, for some of you who can't get MOABs, just keep in mind that these tips work for just doing well with a shotgun. But yeah, that's pretty much the tips for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this. I pick up the MOAB in a few seconds here. But anyways, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, definitely remember to subscribe if you're not already, and also leave a like rating. It really does help a lot. So that's the gameplay, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Unfortunately, none of my MOABs go off, but that's the gameplay. There you go. Peace.